Way back when I was an elementary education major, I got the opportunity to work with a lot of the youth in Greensboro, and it was at a lot of the local elementary schools. Well, when I was having a conversation with one of the sweet little girls that I got the opportunity to work with, you know, kids start to open up to you after they've been around you for a little bit, and she told me that she was scared of cops. When I surprisingly asked her why she was scared of cops, she told me that she was scared that her dad was going to be deported back to Mexico. And this both made me question our immigration system as a whole and question why her dad would, come here illegally. But I do know that our current system of immigration has a lot of loopholes in it that are not always fair. So that definitely gave me a personal stance when it came to immigration. And that's what I am asking you all to find today. So I would just like to point out that stories like this that take place in Greensboro, North Carolina, with our youth surrounding us, are why that this topic should matter to us and we shouldn't feel distance from it. There are kids being impacted by our stance on this and the choices that we make surrounding it. So I'm going to go about this presentation by talking about the extremes. So the two extremes in this situation are obviously no immigration at all and completely open borders. And I think it's important to avoid both of these. So our current climate of immigration, as we touched a little bit on last time, is kind of based on a ranking system. So this is all according to the American Immigration Council. So according to the American Immigration Council, there are a few major principles of which immigration is based off of. These principles include reuniting families, allowing immigrants that hold valuable skill, protection of refugees, which is a huge one today, and for diversity reasons. So for each of these categories and principles, there are multiple factors in which the eligibility is determined. So for each category, there are limitations to the amount of immigrants that can be taken in. And I will include the chart that I included last time for those of you that are new to my group. So my viewpoint on this whole situation is that there should be thorough laws surrounding immigration in the United States. And when I say thorough, I mean thorough, but fair and attainable, as we know is not always the case today. So why can't we just have open borders? So I would say the biggest reason for this would be accountability. And when I say accountability, I don't mean saying that just because they're immigrants, they're going to bring crime into the country, which is completely, absolutely not true, because honestly, they'll probably just bring skill that we need and that we should want, but we have to be accountable for that, small percentage of people that could bring crime. And I don't think it's fair to the people that are here to, not be accountable for everybody that's living in the land. So we cannot simply say that there should be 100% open borders because of accountability and safety issues within the United States. But there's also a flip side to that, which is when we talk about closed borders. So we cannot automatically just say that we should have closed borders because we have a moral obligation to help other people, especially in the case of refugees and reuniting families. And we should want diversity. So why should we avoid closed borders? So a lot of the ideas surrounding closed borders has to do with the economy. That's a lot of people's go-to. So I read an article that was written by Linda Levine, and she is a specialist in the labor economics in the United States. And she explained in the article, Immigration, the effects of low-skilled and high-skilled native workers. She explains that there are economic theories that suggest an increased amount of immigrants would lead to a reduced wage for workers in general. So this is definitely a solely logical and methodical approach to immigration, and I think that it can cause opinions to be more general, which I think can definitely be dangerous, especially when we go back to the story that I opened the presentation with. It's very important that we don't have a general view on immigration, because there are those stories that can touch you and move you to look at it in a different way. So the idea of turning our back to the evil that is going on into the world, because of the fear of, taking certain jobs away from ourselves, is, morally wrong to me. So, especially in the case of refugees fleeing from the country, I feel that we have a moral obligation to help these individuals, and I think it's important that we do so. So, as far as a middle ground, I'd like to tie that into Robert L. Scott's epistemic approach. So, within the idea of immigration, there can be many truths, as mentioned in my last presentation, which just talked about the current system and, the ideas surrounding it. There are 6 major principles as to why people migrate to the United States, which include factors such as refugees, reuniting families, skilled workers, etc. So, with this being considered, it does not make too much sense to either have a completely open or completely closed borders. So, this type of approach is too much of a capital T approach, as Robert L. Scott would say. And I think it's important for us to make it personal and stay away from the general ideas of the main media outlets and the things that you see on social media.